Chief here, and I have another thought. So today, I just want to talk about history, his story, and what I think about it, because it's a big subject, of course, and history, as I'm speaking of it, encompasses time, all the time that humans have been here, which is vast, which is a lot, and there's a lot of things to investigate there, what we still have, especially from ancient times. But I think that's something that we need to investigate necessarily and not do what has happened in ancient times. And actually recently as the Middle Ages, which is history, has been destroyed most often. I bet you there's probably more things that have been burnt in fire than actually exists that we still have access to. That's how I think about history. I think about history of what we have, which is a ton of stuff. And then I think about what we don't have, and then how do we connect the narrative threads. And that's one thing with his story too. It was Napoleon, I believe he says, I'm just quoting, it's not verbatim, but essentially, the victors, the conquerors get to create history, get to create the narrative. So what I think about history is we got to get close to the factual, the true narrative, to the events that how they actually happened as possible based upon the evidence and things that we have. And we absolutely cannot destroy information. Like it's being, or destroy history, which is actually being advocated for today under the guise that they're they're actually only trying to insert a new historical narrative, which is why even in the past they have destroyed history and previous documents. Because how I think about it is like this. I think that the Confederates are seditious, that the flag actually represents that you hate the United States of America and you want to separate from it. Anything else that they say is just, their narrative on top of that flag, which looks like a lot like the flags from Great Britain for a reason. More on that maybe another day. But it's a seditious flag. But I don't think people should be able to fly it if they want to. I don't think that we should destroy the statues of the Confederate generals, even though I think that they're treasonous, and they were, to the United States of America. I believe that I should be able to take my son and daughter up to a Confederate statue and explain to them who that person was and the Civil War and all the things that surrounded it. There are a lot of narratives around the Civil War. The Civil War has one grand narrative, but there's so many others that fit into that grand narrative, and we can't reduce that history down to the simple narrative. We have to be able to investigate all of those, and instead of destroying that statue, we should be informing people. That's another thing too. There's no solutions to things, like even with MLB and all these groups moving their events from states that don't necessarily politically align with them. I'm like, why is your solution to move? Why is your solution to help the community? For example, MLB moves their All-Star game. Why isn't the MLB and them just saying, let's just do a voter ID drive so we can just make sure that all the people who we say can't get IDs have them? But it's because they don't want the people who can get IDs to get IDs. They want the people who can't get them to be able to vote. But that's what I'm saying, like in this society, like they're not coming up with any solutions to things. They're just destroying it, or just just saying, if you don't believe our narrative, we're just gonna punish you for it. And I think that history cannot work that way. I hope that voter ID thing connected, because I just been thinking about that for a long time. Like, why don't they just get the people IDs? Your ID's just not used to vote. Like, it's used to even buy the vices. They think that black folks just are vice riddled. So we need ID to fucking get the liquor. Say a free bottle of liquor with your fucking ID. Like, what the fuck, man? But that's how I feel about history too. It's like, why the fuck are we destroying it? Why aren't you educating people on who these people are and what's going on historically? Not just with the Civil War, but with you know, everything, with every historical event. I noticed that, like, I read my son's, some of my son's homework, and they talk about like Thomas Edison, and they talk about Jackie Robinson, and they give these like really, you know, the biographical, probably like a Wikipedia, bad example, but a Wikipedia's page worth of information about the person. But there were so many narratives surrounding both of those figures, and there are so many people connected to them that they don't explain, that may actually help them think about the biography or the little blurb that was written that he should answer the questions to differently. And even some of those questions may have different answers, you know, than the ones that they're asking. So that's how I think about history. We should not be destroying it. We cannot be the new book burners. We cannot be the iconoclasts. You know, as much as your emotions want you to, your intelligence must become understanding, and actually understand that we must learn from the past and not destroy it. It is his story, but we also have the ability to create our own narratives, a closer narrative to the truth again than what is being propagated, or what is disseminated to us, or what is being indoctrinated into us in these educational institutions, who only want to change the curriculum from what they were teaching to this new nonsense so they can, you know, weaken our society. And that's how they're weakening our mental capacity that way, just like they're trying to weaken our physical capacity by attacking everything. You know, it just seems so insidious. It just seems so evident to me. It's like, it's just insidious, and it seems like it's out in the open, but I guess people have to explicitly say things. And that's one thing with history too. They try to think that their narrative threads, the people in these institutions who get to create the history of the historical narrative, that your own conclusions that you come up with based upon the same information that they may have, and even more that you may gather on your own, is not the right narrative because it's different than theirs, and because it hasn't been validated by the institutions, or they haven't written an official peer-reviewed document or some bullshit, you know? So that's one thing we also too, that we have to be able to have confidence enough in our ability to be perceptive and our ability to interpret, to actually engage with history correctly, I think. And not also try to, what's happened too is like a lot of historical narrative, people are injecting themselves into history by changing terms, by making false associations, by not actually telling you that this land was called something else, and had bigger or smaller territory. You know, that just things of that nature. You know, they're not actually helping us. They're not telling us anything but narrative. Actually, a lot of it's a false historical narrative. You know, but it's up to us to figure that out. It's not up to us to destroy it. And that's just my thought of the day.